If you've ever had your words twisted, if you've ever felt your energy drained after every conversation, if you've ever stepped out of a relationship carrying nothing but self-doubt, then you've tasted the ruthless power of a narcissist. What makes them dangerous isn't the shouting nor the angry outbursts. It's the slow, calculated, and almost invisible way they slip into your mind. They make you question your own memories. They convince you that everything is your fault, that if you just tried harder, softened a little more, endured a little longer, then love and validation would finally arrive. But that moment never comes. Because with a narcissist, the problem was never you. The problem is that they will never see the flaws within themselves. This is why so many people remain stuck in a loop with no escape. The harder they try, the more they're drained. The more they love, the more they're used. The more they endure, the more they lose themselves. You are not crazy. You are not weak. And you are certainly not worthless the way they made you believe. You're simply facing a kind of person who survives by controlling, manipulating, and feeding off the empathy of others. And here's a truth that can change the entire game. You don't need to scream. You don't need to prove. You don't need to expose. Just one sentence, short, simple, yet powerful enough to shatter the entire script they've written. One sentence that makes them step back, unsettled, and for the very first time in this toxic dance, the one losing power isn't you, it's them. Think about it. For years, their strength has depended on your reactions. Every argument, every tear, every attempt to explain only fueled the fire of their control. They don't care about truth. They only care that you're still in the game, that your emotions are still under their command. But when you have this sentence, and you use it with calmness and certainty, the entire mechanism collapses. Power returns to you not because you won an argument, but because you refused to play in the first place. And that is what terrifies them most. A narcissist doesn't fear your anger. They don't fear your accusations. They fear only one thing, your calm. That calm declares that you are no longer their puppet. That calm shows that they've lost the only power they ever held, the power to shake your mind. The moment you realize this is the moment the invisible chains break, it's no longer about changing them, it's about reclaiming yourself. And that journey begins right here, with the promise that you'll never again allow a narcissist to underestimate you. No violence, no chaos, just the sharpness of a single sentence and the steadiness of your mind. Remember this, they may manipulate words, but they cannot manipulate the silence of your strength. They may write the script, but they cannot control your decision to leave the stage. And once you learn how to speak that sentence, the performance ends not for them, but for you, the one who finally takes back ownership of your life. A narcissist never comes from the confidence they project on the outside. In reality, they live in a pit of insecurity, an emptiness that eats away at them, a constant fear of being exposed. To protect themselves, they build layers of disguise. That's why they wear the mask of arrogance, charm, power, and control, as if it were a shield preventing anyone from seeing the fragility within. Behind the cold stare, the confident smile, or the persuasive words, there isn't strength. There's an unending fear that if the truth were revealed, nothing would be left. And the danger is this: their mask is so convincing that many mistake it for their true self. What makes them threatening isn't just the mask itself, but the way they choose their targets. They don't seek out the detached or indifferent. They look for compassionate hearts, forgiving souls, people quick to blame themselves before blaming others, because they know that empathy often forgives, excuses, and questions itself first. That is the very doorway they've been waiting for, and once they step in, the erosion begins. Not through visible wounds, but through tiny, constant needles that slowly drain you without you even realizing you're bleeding. A comment that seems harmless, a dismissive glance, a half smile laced with contempt, all calculated to plant seeds of doubt within you. You begin to question your memory. Did I remember it wrong? You doubt your feelings. Am I overreacting? You question your worth. Am I not good enough, not kind enough, not loving enough? And day by day, these questions carve deeper gaps in your heart, convincing you that the problem must be you, not them. This is the power of the mask. it turns the victim against themselves. The truth is, the confusion, the hurt, the exhaustion you feel are not signs of weakness. They are the results of a deliberate strategy. They want you to doubt yourself so they can control you more easily. They want you to blame yourself so you never blame them. And they want you to believe that if only you changed, if only you tried harder, if only you loved deeper, then they would change too. But that's an illusion, a carefully constructed lie designed to keep you trapped in an endless loop. The mask of a narcissist is dangerous because it deceives not only you, but everyone around you. They can appear charming, intelligent, talented in public. And that makes your private pain even more confusing. When you share your story, others may find it hard to believe because all they see is the mask, not the truth beneath it. And in that loneliness, you doubt yourself even more, making you easier to manipulate. But when you recognize the truth, everything begins to shift. When you understand that arrogance is only the armor of insecurity, you stop seeking validation from them. When you realize that their charm is just a tool to hide their emptiness, you no longer fall for the surface. And when you see that their blame is not a reflection of you, but of their fear of exposure, you begin to step out of the cycle. Seeing the truth behind the mask is a crucial first step. It's like the first beam of light piercing a dark room, revealing the invisible strings that have bound you for so long. It shows you that what you endured was never because you weren't enough. It's because you encountered someone skilled at exploiting your kindness for their gain. And once that light shines, you are no longer lost in the dark. The mask can deceive for a time, but it cannot conceal forever. And the moment you see through it, you've already walked halfway back to yourself. Because once you stop confusing the mask with reality, you finally see clearly who has been in control and who holds the true power to walk away. A narcissist doesn't change, not because they can't, but because they refuse to see the fault within themselves. In their world, they are always at the center, either the victim who deserves sympathy or the hero who deserves praise, but never the perpetrator. And this refusal to take responsibility creates a spiral of manipulation, one that pulls you in without you realizing it. That spiral often begins with small accusations, seemingly harmless. When you stay silent to keep the peace, they take it as proof of your weakness. When you push back, they twist the story, making you the cause of chaos. No matter which path you take, the ending is always the same. You lose balance while they keep control. That is the game they've built. And in that game, you never win. What keeps you trapped is the longing to be understood, the hunger for validation. When you're accused, you explain yourself, hoping to prove your innocence. When you're criticized, you try harder, hoping to earn their love. But the more you explain, the deeper you fall into the trap. Because for a narcissist, the problem has never been you. It has always been their need to maintain control. The more you react, the more evidence they collect to prove their power. Their goal isn't love, nor is it connection. They're not seeking a healthy, balanced relationship. They only want you dependent on their approval, their rare moments of tenderness, their occasional crumbs of affection. And that dependency makes you their puppet. This spiral of manipulation is sustained through a repeated cycle. First, they hurt you with words or actions. Second, they deny it, shift the blame, and make you believe you caused it. And third, they offer a fleeting moment of sweetness, a kind word, a gentle touch that keeps your hope alive. This cycle spins over and over, keeping you in a constant state of waiting and trying. You wait for change, you wait for validation, you wait for real love. But all of it is an illusion designed to prolong their control. The terrifying part of this spiral is that it slowly makes you doubt yourself. When they blame you, you believe you're wrong. When they deny, you believe your memory is unclear. When they offer affection, you believe hope still exists. And once you no longer trust yourself, they've already won. Because self-doubt is the strongest chain that keeps you bound. The only way out is to see the spiral for what it is. It's not a series of random events, it's a calculated strategy. It's designed to exhaust you, to confuse you, to weaken you until you can't move forward. And when you recognize this, you realize the answer is not to become a better player, but to leave the board entirely. A narcissist wants you to believe that the chaos is your fault. But the truth is, they created the chaos to keep you spinning in their game. Once you understand this, you stop being pulled in. You can pause, step back, and say, This isn't my fault. This is just the game they've set up. And in that very awareness, you begin to take back your power. Breaking free from the spiral is not easy because it requires facing the truth that you cannot change them. You can only change yourself, change how you respond, change how you see the situation, change how you draw your boundaries. And when you refuse to participate, the spiral collapses on its own. The power of a narcissist never lies in their strength, it lies in your reaction. They feel strong when you feel weak, they win when you surrender, they control when you doubt yourself. But the moment you awaken, the moment you stop playing, the spiral falls apart. And in that moment, you not only break free from their control, you reclaim yourself, whole, clear, and free. To understand a narcissist, you have to see the three core needs that drive everything they do: control, validation, and chaos. These aren't passing habits, they're the foundation of their existence. Every word, every gesture, every strategy serves these needs. And if you don't recognize them, you'll remain caught in the spiral they've designed. The first need is control. For a narcissist, power matters more than anything. They don't just want to control what you do, they want to control how you think and how you feel. They study your reactions, test your boundaries, and inch by inch, they invade your inner world. At first, it may be small requests, an innocent reminder, a harmless suggestion. But once you grow accustomed to yielding, they turn it into law. What they crave most is the switch that can make you angry, make you afraid, make you hopeful, or make you insecure. And once they can pull your emotions like levers, you're firmly within their grasp. The second need is validation. For a narcissist, validation isn't just a desire, it's the fuel that keeps them alive. They crave admiration, praise, attention. When they are celebrated, their ego swells and thrives. But when they are challenged or denied, they feel it as a direct threat to their very survival. This is why they surround themselves with those who feed their ego and discard anyone who questions them. When you admire them, they feel invincible. But the moment you speak the truth, they react as if you've betrayed them. In their world, validation is oxygen, and whoever controls that oxygen holds their very life in their hands. The third need is chaos. This is their most powerful weapon. By blurring the line between truth and lies, love and control, care and manipulation, they keep you disoriented. One day they are tender, the next they are cold. One moment they promise, the next they deny. They shift roles constantly, at times the helpless victim, at times the noble hero. And it's this instability that keeps you doubting. You begin to question your memory, your feelings, even your worth. And when you can no longer trust yourself, they hold the ultimate advantage. When these three needs converge, they form a closed system. They control you through confusion. They sustain their power through validation. And they keep you in the spiral by making you doubt yourself. The more you try to escape, the deeper you get pulled in. Because the game is designed not for you to win, but for you to break. Understanding these three needs is the key. It's like seeing the blueprint of a maze. When you don't know it's there, you run in circles, lost and exhausted. But when you see the map, you realize every path leads to the same dead end. And the only way out is not to run faster, but to step outside altogether. Awakening begins the moment you realize their behavior is not random. Every outburst of anger, every sarcastic remark, every sudden moment of tenderness, it all has a purpose. And that purpose always circles back to those three needs: control, validation, and chaos. Once you see it, you stop blaming yourself. You understand that you are not broken, not lacking, not unworthy. You're simply standing inside a game that was programmed for you to lose. And the moment you stop playing, the game loses its power. The instant you recognize these three core needs is the moment power begins to return to you. Because no one can control a person who sees the truth behind control. No one can confuse someone who understands that chaos is a tactic, not reality. And no one can starve a person of validation once they've learned to reclaim validation from within themselves. Nothing fuels a narcissist more than your reaction. Every tear, every explanation, every burst of anger, all of it becomes the fuel they need to continue their game of power. The more you try to prove yourself right, the more you long for them to understand, the more you hope they will change, the more strength you unknowingly hand back to them. This is why arguments with a narcissist never have an ending. You walk away drained while they walk away satisfied. The hard truth is this: you cannot win an argument with them, you cannot force them to admit fault, and you cannot change who they are at their core. The only way out is to take from them the one thing they truly need, but control over your emotions. And the only way to do that is through emotional detachment, not as a tactic, but as a survival skill. Emotional detachment does not mean becoming numb or cold. It means choosing not to react in the way they expect. It means keeping your voice calm, your words short, your boundaries firm. It means no longer being dragged into endless debates. No more proving, no more explaining, no more breaking down in tears or exploding in anger. Instead, you become a mirror of truth, calm, steady, and unshaken. At first, your silence will infuriate them. They'll try everything, attacking harder, playing the victim, or pretending to be gentle to pull you back in. But when you stop reacting, when you maintain calmness, confusion begins to take root in them. Because in their eyes, you suddenly become a puzzle they cannot solve, a locked door for which they no longer hold the key. This detachment brings something even deeper: clarity. In toxic relationships, your mind is constantly clouded, unable to tell the difference between reality and manipulation. But when you withdraw your energy from their game, the fog lifts. You begin to see clearly. You realize their anger is not proof of your guilt. Their criticism is not the truth. And their sudden tenderness is not love, it's a tool. It isn't easy. Emotional detachment requires immense discipline because your heart will urge you to react, to defend yourself, to be understood. But the more you practice, the stronger you become. Remember, the goal is not to suppress your feelings, it is to choose not to hand them over to someone who has not earned them. You may still feel hurt, you may still feel anger, but instead of pouring it outward for them to exploit, you keep it within where it can become healing. Detachment is also protection of your energy. Once you stop giving reactions, you stop leaving every interaction drained. You begin to recover, to rebuild strength, to reconnect with yourself, the self that has been buried for too long. When your mind is no longer entangled in their game, you start to remember who you were before the manipulation. The moment you master emotional detachment is the moment the power shifts. Not because you won the fight, but because you stop playing. Not because you made them change, but because you changed the way you respond. And this change is what truly terrifies them. Because a narcissist does not fear your anger, they fear your calm. They do not fear your accusations, they fear your steady silence. And they do not fear losing you physically, they fear losing control over your mind and emotions. Once that power is cut, their game is over. Emotional detachment is the light that guides you out of the maze. It reminds you that you do not need to prove anything, you do not need their validation, and you do not need to fight a meaningless battle. All you need is to protect your inner peace. And when you do, you not only free yourself from the narcissist, you return to yourself whole, free, and stronger than ever before. There are moments when an entire life changes with a single sentence, not with a long speech, not with accusations, not with fiery resistance, but with a calm, short, and decisive declaration. For a narcissist, that sentence is, "I'm not available for this conversation." At first glance, it seems simple, but its power is immense. It doesn't attack, it doesn't give them room to twist, and it doesn't provide the emotional fuel they need to keep their game alive. It is like a solid wall, quiet yet impenetrable. In the very moment you say it, the balance of power shifts. You refuse to participate, and they lose the ground beneath their control. Remember, narcissists do not live on truth. They live on interaction, on pulling you into arguments, on making you cry, making you rage, making you explain. Every reaction is proof that you're still playing. But when you use this sentence, it's like pulling the plug from the socket. No more arguing, no more explaining, no more fighting, just one clear boundary. You are no longer available for their chaos. The strength of this sentence lies in its neutrality. It doesn't accuse, it doesn't provoke, it doesn't invite debate. It's simply a statement of your choice. And this is what a narcissist despises most, that you have stepped out of their reach. They cannot twist it because there is no logic to dispute. They cannot use it as fuel because it carries no emotion to exploit. All they are left with is a quiet, immovable line they cannot cross. Of course, their first reaction will be resistance. They may mock you, accuse you of being irresponsible, or try to guilt trip you back into the game. They may pretend to be hurt, hoping you'll return to comfort them, but you don't need to react. If they persist, you simply repeat the same words with the same calm tone. I'm not available for this conversation. And if necessary, you walk away. No explanations, no justifications, no debates. It is your consistency that becomes the weapon they fear most. When you use this statement, you are sending a powerful message. I own my time, my energy, my emotions. I choose not to step into endless dialogues that lead nowhere. I choose peace over the need to win in a game designed for me to lose. It's not just a phrase, it's a declaration of self-respect. This sentence also works like a mirror. It forces the narcissist to sit with themselves without someone to reflect their anger, their blame, or their chaos. And in that silence, they face the emptiest truth. Without someone to manipulate, they have nothing. That emptiness makes them restless because their existence depends on your reaction. The power of this sentence does not come from its volume, but from your consistency. If you say it once and then fall back into the spiral, they'll know it was just a tactic. But if you repeat it with the same calmness, it becomes an unbreakable boundary, a wall of words strong enough to end the game. Behind those 6 simple words lies a profound truth. I am no longer available to be controlled. I am no longer your source of emotional supply. I am no longer your puppet. And when you stand firm in this truth, you reclaim absolute sovereignty over your life. What truly terrifies a narcissist is not your anger, it's your calm resolve. They can handle shouting, they can twist accusations, but they do not know what to do with your peace, because that peace is proof that you've stepped out of their control. And the moment you step out, their game ends. One sentence, spoken at the right time, can shake a narcissist's grip, but only consistency can make them truly afraid. Because a narcissist will not test you just once and stop. They will test your boundaries again and again in different ways to see if you are serious or if your strength is only temporary. And if you waver, they will return immediately, tightening their control as if nothing ever changed. Consistency is the key that transforms a fragile boundary into a fortress. When you remain calm, when you repeat the same line, when you refuse to shift, you are sending a message that could not be clearer. The game is over, and you are no longer a player. At first, this will infuriate them. They may increase the pressure, sharpen their words, or disguise themselves in rare sweetness to lure you back. They will try every trick because their power depends entirely on your reaction. But when you stay steady, they begin to lose their grip. Consistency doesn't mean you stop feeling. You may still hurt, you may still feel anger, but instead of letting those emotions explode into reactions, you choose to hold them, understand them, and respond with trained calmness. This takes tremendous mental discipline. Yet, the more you practice, the stronger you grow. Like a muscle built through repetition, consistency becomes an inner strength that cannot be broken. It's important to understand a narcissist doesn't operate on reason, but on habit. They are used to pressing the same buttons, a sarcastic remark, a cold silence, a misplaced blame, and watching you respond exactly as predicted. But when that pattern stops working, when you hold the same boundary every time they try, they realize their old formula has lost its power. And what unsettles them most is your unpredictability, the fact that they no longer know how to control you. Consistency also rebuilds your trust in yourself. In a narcissistic relationship, you're conditioned to doubt your feelings, your memories, your instincts. But each time you stand firm, you prove to yourself that your intuition is right, that you have the right to protect your peace. Over time, this trust in yourself becomes the foundation of freedom. You no longer depend on their validation because you have learned to validate yourself. Of course, consistency is not easy. There will be moments when you feel tired, when you want to give up, when you're tempted by their occasional tenderness. But in those moments, you must remember that tenderness is not love, it is bait, designed to pull you back into the spiral. And when you remain consistent, you stop falling for it. What makes consistency a terrifying weapon to a narcissist is that it destroys their ability to manipulate. They live by a cycle: wound you, deny it, then offer just enough sweetness to keep you hooked. But when you stop reacting to the script, the cycle breaks. And when it stays broken long enough, their game cannot continue. They are forced to face the truth they dread the most. They no longer have power over you. The power of consistency is not found in grand gestures, but in small choices repeated every day. Each time you say no and mean it, each time you choose silence over argument, each time you walk away instead of explaining, those choices, repeated, become your armor against every tactic. And that quiet resilience is what makes a narcissist tremble. Because in the end, they do not fear your anger. They fear your absence of reaction. They do not fear your accusations. They fear your calm. They do not fear you being strong once. They fear you being strong always. And your consistency becomes the life sentence for a game they once believed could go on forever. Freedom doesn't come when a narcissist changes, because they never will. Freedom doesn't come when you win an argument, because in their game, whether you win or lose, you still lose a part of yourself. Freedom comes only when you realize the only way to reclaim your power is to step out of the game entirely. Final liberation isn't about defeating them, it's about refusing to let them touch your mind ever again. The moment you understand that their anger is no longer your burden, their criticism is no longer your truth, and their affection is nothing more than a weaponized tool, you see the invisible chains fall away. It's not a loud victory, it's a quiet clarity, a deep stillness, where you know you have finally come home to yourself. Liberation doesn't mean forgetting what you endured, it means redefining it. You no longer look at those memories as proof of weakness, but as evidence of strength. You no longer see pain as failure, but as a marker of growth. Because through those experiences, you learned how to build boundaries, how to guard your peace, and how to choose yourself first. A narcissist doesn't fear confrontation because they can turn it into fuel. They don't fear accusations because they can twist them into a victim narrative. But they do fear one thing: your absolute calm. When you no longer react, no longer engage, no longer let their game shake you, their entire power structure collapses. And that is the greatest victory of all. Imagine you've been locked in a room with no windows. For years, you believed the narcissist held the key, that if you pleased them enough, they would let you out. But the truth is, the key was always in your hands. You just never dared to use it. Final liberation is the moment you turn the key, open the door, and step outside to breathe the air of freedom you thought you had lost forever. It isn't dramatic. It can happen in silence. A single firm statement: I'm not available for this conversation. One step away without looking back. One decision to protect your inner peace rather than fight in chaos. These small acts, repeated, become the wall that shields you from all manipulation. And one day, you'll realize they no longer have any power over you. Final liberation also means you stop waiting. You stop waiting for an apology. You stop waiting for validation. You stop expecting closure from them, because closure never comes from them, it comes from you. You are the one who ends the story, not with revenge, but with peace. The beauty of reclaiming your power is that you don't just escape the narcissist, you rediscover yourself. You realize you were always enough, that your worth never depended on anyone's gaze or approval. You begin rebuilding your life on a new foundation: self-respect, clarity, and peace. Final liberation is not an explosion, but a stillness. It is not the triumph of making someone else fall. It is the quiet strength of standing tall, unshaken, untouchable. It needs no audience, no applause, because the greatest victory is always within. When you reach the end of this journey, you finally see the narcissist was never the true prison. The only thing that bound you was the belief that you had to keep playing their game. And the moment you chose not to play, the moment you placed your peace above all else, the moment you held your boundaries with consistency, you set yourself free. That is the final liberation. No more chaos, no more spiral, no more chains. Only you free, grounded, and stronger than you have ever been.